continuing to learn details about the deadly tornado that devastated the city of Greenfield. You see just so much damage in this drone video here. Crews are still continuing to assess all of that damage. At this hour, we know now 4 people died in Tuesday's storm there. At least 35 people were hurt. The Joint Unified Command says the number of injuries is likely higher. Tuesday's tornado became the deadliest in the country so far this year, according to NOAA. Local 5, we've been on your side in Greenfield since Tuesday, talking to those affected. And that's where Megan McPherson is live this morning. Megan, you've been out there Tuesday morning as well as Wednesday and then this morning. What have you heard as you talked with storm survivors?
Yeah, good morning, Janu. The sun now up, rising over this neighborhood, completely destroyed by Tuesday's tornado. This was one of the hardest hit areas. We're sort of central in the middle of Greenfield. The wreckage extremely hard to look at. And while the number of homes and businesses destroyed by the tornado hasn't yet been identified, what we do know is that this town was essentially leveled. We also heard that from Governor Kim Reynolds yesterday. One key piece of information we also learned: the Adair County Memorial Hospital, which serves this community, sustained significant tornado damage. The hospital released a statement yesterday saying that the damage required staff and patients to be evacuated from the facility. Now, I did have an opportunity to also survey damage on another street that was hit very hard by the tornado yesterday. One woman I spoke to grew up here in Greenfield. She was visiting her mother, who lives here, still living in her childhood home. The home essentially destroyed, the entire top half of it completely ripped off by the tornado. I had a chance to speak with them about their firsthand account as they were sheltering in their basement.
You could hear debris and things breaking. And then I said, okay, it's here, Mom. And then the house started shaking. My ears started popping. I said, oh, my ears are going. We're hit. We're getting hit. Came up to the door and all we could see was this, and we were shocked.
Both Robin and her mother Edith had to be pulled out of the home by rescue crews. The debris was so severe that they had to physically clear it themselves in order to get out of the home. And as you just mentioned earlier, Chanu, Governor Kim Reynolds will be back here on site in Greenfield today, speaking with the FEMA administrator. She'll be surveying damage again and hopefully updating us about just the extent of the damage, because as I mentioned earlier, we don't fully know how many homes or businesses were destroyed, but we do know we have that preliminary EF3 rating. We'll keep you posted throughout the morning. Survivors are now starting to emerge, coming back from wherever they've been staying and starting to clear some of the wreckage. Janelle?
Yeah, Megan, heartbreaking to hear those firsthand accounts out there, and they have to deal with that as well as starting the recovery process here. You were out there yesterday morning, you're out there this morning. What does it look like so far? Have you noticed any progress, what the damage looks like?
Yeah, as I've been taking a look around this area this morning, this was one of the areas that Iowa State Patrol took us to, and it certainly looks a lot better. I can't say that from my perspective, it looks like it's been 100% cleaned up, obviously, because there is still a significant amount of wreckage. But as I just take a look behind me here, you can see there are sort of some piles of debris now starting to build up. And one thing I also wanted to highlight is that this community is incredibly resilient. I've had a chance to speak to several residents. Not only have they had smiles on their faces a lot of the time, they've been incredibly kind, but they speak to me about how resilient this community is. One of the main questions I asked was, you know, what is Greenfield like? What is it like living here? And Robin, who I spoke to yesterday, tells me that they're resilient. It's just what they do. So just a lot of promising energy here, a lot of hope. The damage obviously still hard to look at.
All right, thank you, Megan, and we'll continue following all of that for you right here on Good Morning Iowa and Local 5 News. And this morning, we are still hearing more stories of just unimaginable loss as people in Greenfield come to terms with just how widespread and destructive that storm was. A family just outside of the city took a direct hit on Tuesday, bringing a 94-year-old farm to the ground. The Queck family tells Local 5 they huddled under a blanket, shielding themselves from falling bricks when the storm passed. They saw a 5-generation farm gone.
There isn't a single building left. Everything is, there isn't a board on top of another anywhere on this farmstead.
The family is now leaning on each other and those nearby, trying to find some positivity in all of this. They say it's a new chapter, one they are interested in just seeing what happens next. It is 6:38 right now. 17 more counties are now added to a statewide disaster proclamation. Governor Kim Reynolds made that announcement on Wednesday. More than 30 counties are now on that list. So this allows cities and its residents to get state services as well as apply for grant funds that will help with necessities like food or clothes. The governor and other state officials were in Greenfield Wednesday. Governor Reynolds is hopeful to receive help from the federal government.
We indicated that we will be putting forth an expedited presidential declaration. We're hoping by no later than tomorrow we'll have those numbers in so that we can get them to the White House and get a presidential disaster declaration as quickly as possible. We're going to file for individual assistance again and public assistance.
The storm damage hitting parts of Adams County as well. Winds ripped down power lines, flipped over buses, and ripped off roofs of the homes there. The sheriff's office says a woman in Corning died when her car was blown off the road. Multiple turbines, as you see, they're bent in half by the storm, sending rotor blades and metal shelling flying across farmland, even up to a half a mile away from the turbine's foundation. The tornado also demolished family homes, forcing people to search the rubble for what remains. And closer to the metro, Johnston High School is returning to class today. The school canceled Wednesday's classes after the storm damaged its building. School administrators say some of the storm damage included a shed that's a total loss, broken windows, and down fencing. The school district let out early on Tuesday ahead of the severe weather. Now neighborhoods are assessing the damage.
A lot of tree and debris damage in town, and then as you got north of the city of Des Moines kind of proper, so we started to run into a little bit more in terms of structure damage.
Now the damage was spread throughout Polk County. The county emergency management team there is working to help clean up that area, saying it'll take a couple of weeks. Right now, the Iowa DNR is urging people to avoid flooded waterways as the agency responds to reports of wastewater treatment plants discharged untreated wastewater. Des Moines Parks and Rec also announced several trails are closed because of flooding. So here's a few just for you to be aware of this morning. Neil Smith, Walnut Creek, and Trestle Trail are all shut down. In West Des Moines, neighborhoods saw high wind speeds, breaking branches, bringing trees down to the ground. The city says it will now pick up yard debris next Tuesday. That's May 28th. The pickup will begin in the east and then move west across the city. Until then, people are encouraged to use Metro Waste Authority's composted program for leaves and smaller branches. And for those who are wondering how you can help those impacted by this storm, here are just a few places for you to get started. St. John's Catholic Church in Greenfield is accepting donation items that's ranging from dog food to large trash bags. Adair County Health and Fitness Center is accepting all clothing donations. And if you don't have time to drop off supplies, several places are accepting gift cards or online donations.